Hey guys, it's Sam, and today I'm going to be doing my 2014 Book Awards. So last year I saw that Kayla of Bookadoodles did a very similar video to this when she was describing all of her favorites of 2013, and she was saying that she really loves award shows and that she wanted to kind of award all of her books based on different award show type categories, mostly the Oscars. And I absolutely loved that premise. I will link her video down below, as well as if she does a similar video for this year. As soon as she does do that, I will link that down below as well. It just sounds like a really cool concept because it's really hard for me to pick my favorites, but among my favorites I can pick which part of them made them my favorites. It'll make more sense once you see all the categories. So I'll be talking about all my favorite books, not in any particular order, but just within these different kinds of like award show categories. The first category is for favorite male main character, and for that it is Warner from Shatter Me. I love the Shatter Me series. I will post my review and gush video down below for you to check out if you haven't already. I adored this whole series, and my favorite thing about this series was Warner. Warner is written so well as a main character. You're not in his head really, except for in the novella Destroy Me, but you just get a sense of all of his mannerisms, how he speaks. Like, I had a very clear picture of Warner in my head when I was reading the series, and I usually don't have like a very distinct picture in my head, but for this series I did. I love him as a character. If he wasn't in the series, I wouldn't have loved the series as much as I do. He's amazing. Favorite, probably male character right now of all time, honestly. So, Warner, Shatter Me, you take the cake. The next category is favorite female main character, and there's actually a tie for this one. Again, this should come as no surprise to anybody, but my two favorite female main characters this year were Leah of The Kiss of Deception and Kestrel from The Winter's Curse. So first I'll talk about Leah yet again. I absolutely adore her as a character. I will post my review and gush again for The Kiss of Deception down below. This was definitely like the top of the list for favorite books of the year. I absolutely love this series. This is the first book in what's probably going to be a fairly long series, and Leah as a main character was amazing. I felt so strongly about her. She's one of those characters that you like want to defend with your life. I absolutely adore her. She's very strong, but not in a like physical strength way. She's very conniving. She has different mysteries about her. This whole series is basically about people keeping secrets from one another, and it's really kind of hard to figure out a lot of times, and I just absolutely love her as a character, and I think she's going to get even stronger as a character as the series goes on, and I'm really excited to see all of her character development, because even the character development she went through in this book was crazy, so I'm really looking forward to her in the rest of the series. Kestrel is another character that I really enjoyed for her different kind of strength. She is a very intelligent, very witty, very conniving character, and she is not physically strong, although her civilization and her like community is all about physical strength. They are a community of soldiers, and being a soldier is a very big deal. The military is a very big deal in this series, and she is not physically strong, but the way that she sees things and the way that she can tell people are like kind of lying or telling the truth, not in a magical way, just in a like, that's how perceptive she is. Again, I did a review and gush on this series. I will link it down below if you haven't seen it yet, but I absolutely adore her as a character. Again, somebody that I would definitely like, if you were real, I would defend you with my life. I just absolutely adore her, and she's kind of morally gray. She's not quite a good character all the time, but she's not a bad character, and I'm really interested to see where she's going to go in the future of the series. The next category is Best Plot Twist, and again, this is a tie between two different books. So this is a tie between the Fallen Kingdom series by Morgan Rhodes and The Archived by Victoria Schwab. As far as Fallen Kingdoms, this series is kind of pegged as a Game of Thrones light, so again, there's a lot of political intrigue, there's a lot of like character deaths, and especially for this first book, like, you don't see any of that coming. In later books, you can kind of see when a character death is going to happen, but in this book, you like really don't expect it to happen, and it does, and there's just a lot of twists within all of the series. Like, not even with like character deaths necessarily, those aren't the big twists I really care about, but there's other things that happen where you're just like, where did that come from? So out of left field. So this book, you really can't expect anything. Like, nothing is off the table. Like, anything can happen within this whole series, and I'm really enjoying this series. I'm currently reading Gathering Darkness and really enjoying it, so craziness with this series. The Archive by Victoria Schwab was a book that I really didn't expect to surprise me as much as it did. This was one of the first books that I ever read when I started my booktube channel, and I absolutely adore it. Throughout this book, I really didn't know who to trust. You have this like feeling in the back of your mind of like, is this person gonna betray her? Like, what's going on? This is crazy. Oh my god. And there was a few twists in here that I still think about because I just didn't see coming. And it was really hard to actually surprise me. Usually I can see when a twist is coming. It's not that surprising. But for this, a lot of things that happened, I was just like, I'm so shocked, still to this day. I think about this book and how much she surprised me with a lot of stuff. So I really want to read more Victoria Schwab, also known as V.E. Schwab, and I plan on reading more of her in 2015, but she still probably takes the cake for like most surprises within a book that I just had no idea, just didn't see coming. The next category is for best book cover. And this is really hard for me to decide, but ultimately I had to go with A Thousand Pieces of You by Claudia Gray, just because I saw this cover before the book was released, before we even really knew much about it, and immediately added it to my TBR because I loved it so much. So while I have a lot of beautiful covers on my shelf and a lot of books that I read this year that had really beautiful covers, this one ultimately wins. Just because I saw it and I was like, I don't care what it's about. I'm gonna own that book. Doesn't matter what it's about. I don't care at all. Ultimately, it's about parallel universes, so I was gonna pick it up by that kind of buzzword anyway, but this cover still is one of the most beautiful things that I've ever seen. I actually did a review on this. I will link that down below for you guys to check out. The next category is for best male sidekick, and because I am so indecisive, again, this has two winners. And those two were Kenji from the Shatter Me series and Roar from the Under the Never Sky trilogy. Both of these won for very similar reasons. They are both the best friends of the two main leads. So Kenji is the best friend to Juliet, and Roar is the best friend to Arya, and I absolutely loved both of them. They both have very similar kind of like witty banter and are just really fiercely defensive of the girls, but not in a like I love you way. Like, neither of these characters had any romantic inclination towards the female leads, which I just really enjoy because a lot of times you'll put like a best friend in there and it'll end up being like a weird love triangle, and these didn't have that, which was really awesome. So I really enjoyed the relationships that were formed between two people of opposite genders and how it was not like sexual in any way or romantic in any way, and it was just like they both were very like supportive of one another, and it was great. So yes, Kenji from Shatter Me and Roar of Under the Never Sky win the award for best male friends, for sure. Now is the award for best female sidekick, and again, I couldn't pick just one, but this is the last of the double winners of the categories. So, strangely enough, the winners for both of these actually aren't fully, like, human. They're definitely female, but I wouldn't really consider them human. So that is Eiko from the Lunar Chronicles series, and the Manticore, whose name I cannot pronounce, from the Assassin's Curse and Pirate's Wish duology. So first is Eiko. She is the best friend robot android of the main character Cinder in that series, and she is so funny. She is just like sassy. They say that she has like a malfunctioning personality chip, so it makes her more human, and she is definitely the comedic relief in that story, and I just really love her. She's also really loyal and just really cute, and like you can always count on her to be saying something like really inappropriate but in a funny way, and I just really enjoy her as a character. And then there is the Manticore from most specifically the Pirate's Wish. That's when she actually pops up. And Manticores are a kind of beast. She's actually here on the cover where they're like a lion slash like dragon slash like scorpion tail. They're like a kind of fantastical creature, but she is definitely female. And it's funny because she's kind of like cat-like in a way, but she also has like not human emotions, but she can interact because she has like a human face. And it's just, she would always say things that were inappropriate. She would always kind of not understand human behavior and human like conversation and stuff like that, and she at the end was also a very loyal character, and she was kind of like this like big cat, and I love cats, so it was just kind of cute the way that she would like interact with the people in the story, and I really enjoyed her. The next category is most unique plot slash world, and this has to go to Blood Red Road by Moira Young. I absolutely love this series. Again, I did a review on this. I will post it down below, but this is a very interesting world. It is a post-apocalyptic story, and the way that everything is done is so unique, you honestly couldn't tell what was coming next. The characters were very different and very complex, and I just really enjoyed this entire series. It kind of felt a little bit like the video game Borderlands, if you guys have played that game. It was kind of that kind of like gritty, sandy, not a lot of technology, but still some kind of world, and where like everything kind of goes, there's really no like law, and everything is just really crazy. So it's kind of like a Western in the future, after the apocalypse. Like, it's just nuts, and I've never read anything like it, so obviously the award had to go to Blood Red Road. Then the next category is Best Book to Movie Adaptation, and I actually haven't watched a lot of book to movie adaptations this year. I watched Divergent and Mockingjay, and ultimately Mockingjay Part 1 took the cake. Like, that was such a good adaptation. I know some people didn't really enjoy it. I liked it. I liked that they split it into two different movies because I like that you got to really feel all the emotional stuff that is going on within the first film. I feel like if they would have just skimmed over that, you wouldn't have really gotten the impact of the fact that these kids, they're all kids, were so impacted by this. They all have like PTSD. They're all just like a wreck. And I think you wouldn't have gotten that if you would have put it all into one movie. So I really enjoyed that they split them up, and I cried like 4 different times in the Mockingjay Part 1 movie. So I really, really enjoyed that movie, and I plan on buying it and watching it again before the next one comes out, for sure. I just think all of them did a really great job, and I'm so glad that they really let that like emotional impact of everything really sink in. The next category is a writer that you discovered for the first time, and that was actually V.E. Schwab / Victoria Schwab. I actually read a lot of authors for the first time this year. Most of the authors from this list I've read for the first time. I started reading a ton more this year. I read a lot before, but I started reading a ton more and different authors this year, so a lot of them are people that I hadn't read before. But I think Victoria Schwab stuck out the most for me. I actually only read the archived, which is crazy because after I read this book I was like, I need to buy everything by her, and I still haven't, which is horrible. But I really want to read Vicious. I'm really looking forward to her new book, A Darker Shade of Magic, which is coming out this year. I really want to read The Unbound, which is the second book in this series. I want to read everything by her. I really, really enjoyed her writing. I think that she's going to end up being one of my favorite authors ultimately. I just haven't read enough by her yet to say that, but I really enjoy her and I really look forward to reading more of her in the future. The next category is book that would work as an animated film, and this should really come as no surprise because it works so perfectly. That is Saga by Brian K. Vaughan and Fiona Staples. This is a graphic novel series. I'm sure you all have heard of it. It is basically a space opera. It is about 2 soldiers from opposite sides of a war. One is from a moon and one is from the planet, and they are at war and they end up falling in love and having a baby. You can obviously see that from the very first book. It is not a spoiler or anything, and it is just crazy. The things that they encounter are just insane. It is sci-fi with also some like fantasy mixed in, and if you're a fan of any of that, I would really recommend this series. If you haven't picked it up yet, I don't know why you wouldn't. Everyone pushes this series. This is my favorite graphic novel series. I picked up a few since then, but still this one ultimately sits at the forefront of my mind. I absolutely love Brian K. Vaughan's writing, and I'm planning on reading everything else that he's written as far as anything in the comic book genre. I want to pick it up, and I love Fiona Staples' art for sure. I mean, the art in here is just so bright, and I just love everything about it. Also, really mature content, so don't pick this up if you are a child or if you don't like swearing or genitalia in your graphic novels. I don't really mind it. Whatever, it's fine. But as an animated series of some kind on like Adult Swim, this would be perfect. The next category is Best Action. And I tend to read a lot of like dystopian, fantasy, sci-fi, so I have a lot of action in most of my books, but ultimately I had to give it to the Serena Legacy series by Anna Banks. I've only read Of Poseidon and Of Triton. I have not gotten the last book yet. I own it. I just haven't read it yet. But this is a series about mermaids, and I had to pick this one because of how fast-paced it is reading-wise. Like, a lot of stuff happens in this book, and sometimes it's just like, okay, that was resolved way too quickly, but it just makes so that a lot of things happen. I love this series. These are like both 4-star books for me. I just think they're lots of fun. I love the mermaid lore in them. I think a lot of stuff happens very quickly, and it's just really easy to get through. They're really, really quick reads. They're like, I read these in a day. They just feel really nostalgic for me. I told people before that I feel like they kind of feel like how Twilight felt when I first read them, like where you just couldn't put it down. It's not a bad thing. They're just like more like fluffy and just fun, and there's like a different lore that you're learning about, and it's just a lot of like action. It's very quick, very fast paced. So I really enjoy this series. I look forward to finishing the series next year. The next category is Best Novella. And this was the first year I actually read novellas. I plan on reading more in the future. I plan on reading the ones that are just like between series, and like they just add a lot to the series, I feel like, and I never really knew about them before book 2, but now I do. So I actually read a lot this year, but my favorite, which I've already mentioned before, was Destroy Me by Taherah Mafi. I love that novella. Like, that novella changes your opinion on a lot of characters. Warner especially, who I already mentioned as a favorite, and I just really enjoyed it. I sat down and read it in one sitting. Novellas, you kind of do that anyway, but I just loved it. Like, it completely changed my opinion on a character, like, who I already kind of liked anyway because I like the bad characters. You guys know that about me, but I loved him even more for that, and it was just a really great novella, and I'm not sure any novella can reach that level for me in my mind. That was definitely a 5-star novella for sure. The next category is Best Standalone. And I used to talk about this book a lot on my channel. I feel like I've kind of like let it go a little bit, but now it's the perfect time to bring it up again, and that is The Night Circus by Erin Morgenstern. I love this book. This is definitely one of my like top 3, I think, of the whole year, just because it is a standalone. This book is amazing. I'm sure most of you have heard of it by now. It is about a night circus that comes around at night, and the imagery in it is fantastic. This book is more about the circus than anything. Like, the circus takes on its own kind of like character. Reading about the circus is most of the fun, but also all the relationships and the people that interact with the circus and that go to the circus, and it's just, the imagery in it is beautiful. I absolutely love this book. I will read anything else by Erin Morgenstern, although I'm a little worried because like the next book that comes out, like how could you even come close to this? But I have faith in her, for sure. This book was amazing. I mean, I can't even say enough about it. I read it back in February, so it's been a long time. It's one of the first books that I read this year, and I still think about it. I love it so much. I've made everybody I know read it. My dad's read it, my boyfriend's read it, my best friend's read it, like everybody, I've pushed it on. I love it. I love the imagery in it. It is beautiful. I was actually moving when I was reading this book. I was moving to this house, and I couldn't pack because I was just reading this. Like, I tried to put it down, and I would just like stare at it until I picked it back up again and started reading it. Like, I love this book, and I really plan on reading it again probably this February, just to like revisit it again and just love it over again. I love this book. If you haven't read it, you are insane. Like, it's beautiful. It is beautiful. It needs to be a movie, a well done movie by like Baz Luhrmann, and I can just like gaze at it and yeah. Okay, I got my gushing in for it. You guys understand. 5 stars to the Night Circus for sure. Loved it. Favorite standalone of the year. And the last category is Best Historical Fiction. And the best historical fiction I read this year was definitely All the Light We Cannot See by Anthony Doerr. I've already done a full review on this, which I will link here as well as down below. Absolutely loved this book. This follows 2 perspectives, one of a blind French girl and one of a Nazi German youth boy during World War II, before, during, after. Like, it's just beautiful. There are sentences in this book that you just like read it and you're like, that is the most beautiful sentence I've ever seen in my life. It was heart-wrenching. It made you happy, it made you sad. It was beautiful. I absolutely love this book, and I definitely think people that are fans of more like YA can definitely still read this. This is an adult novel, but it's not at all dense, and it doesn't feel like hard to read or anything. I absolutely love it. Again, another book that I've pushed on like everybody. My dad's read it. I'm trying to make my boyfriend read it. Like, it's just, everyone needs to read this book. If you enjoy World War II historical fiction, I would definitely give this a go. It is beautiful and has won multiple awards now, so it's definitely good. Alright guys, that is it for my 2014 book award. So comment down below and let me know where some books sit in those different categories for you. I would love to hear your different ideas for the different categories, and if there's any categories you feel like I should add for next year, I would love to get your opinion. So thank you all for watching, and I'll see all of you guys soon. Bye!